Okay. Is the PPT visible to you? For everybody, you can just acknowledge in the chat box. Is the presentation, test execution, is it visible for everybody? You can just put in the chat box. Is the screen visible to everybody? Can anybody just acknowledge it? Good, good, good. Okay. Today we'll be studying about something called test execution. Okay. So if anything is not going well, you let me know in the chat box so that I can just share the screen if it is disturbed somewhere. If I'm not audible, please let me know about it. So we are at the end of the syllabus actually. After this, we have one more unit left, that is testing object-oriented software. If we do that, then we are done with the syllabus. Okay. For third eye, from the point where we have left, everything is there for your third eye. So prepare well. Okay. So let me tell you about the test execution for today's session. Okay, fine. What do you mean by a test execution? Okay, with respect to this session, we are going to learn about how to automate the testing process in the software development. Okay, how can we avoid the manual testing of the software that we are going to design? Okay, so we are going to avoid the mechanical task. Okay, we are going to, as much as possible, we are going to avoid the human interference in testing the particular software that is being developed by a particular software development team. Okay, and here one important concept that we are going to study is about scaffolding. Okay, what do you mean by scaffolding? We'll just check it out. We are going to study about generic and specific scaffolding, and this is most important part with respect to this unit. You have to know this, and there will be a short question based on this scaffolding. Okay, and we are going to study about controllability and observability, and we are going to study about drivers and steps and some extension of oracles. Oracle is not a database over here. I've already told you it is a program written for testing purpose, as to know the behavior of the program which is under execution. Okay, Oracle has got different perspective over here. The relevance of Oracle is different. It is not a database. Okay, we are going to study about comparison based oracles, again the most important point, and about self checks. Okay, after that, let me just tell you about automation of test execution. Okay, here first and foremost we are going to design the test cases and test suite. At this point, you have to know about the difference between test suite and test case. Test suite will have set of test cases. Okay, you are going to design the test cases. Okay, and this is one of the design activity which requires the particular judgment regarding the software. Okay, you have to write the test cases in such a way that you are going to cover all the aspects of the software. Okay, and it demands certain intellectual activity. Being a software tester, you should consider all the angles from where you are going to test the particular software from various angles. Okay, and you are going to detect as many as faults as possible. Okay, and here completely you are going to automate the testing process. Okay, and it is based on the principle something called design once and execute many times. Okay, you are going to write the test cases only once, and you are going to automate those test cases as many times as possible based on the requirement. Okay, and here the automation basically it is going to separate the human process from the mechanical process of test execution. Okay, after that, okay, it is going to yield the test case specification in the format something like this. You can just check it out over here. I have got one example. Okay, I'm going to write something called a large positive number instead of writing a specific number. Okay, this is the way I'm going to specify the test cases. Okay, whenever you are writing the test case, you already know it. It consists of input, expected output. Okay, the pay. Okay, you already know what is the format for writing the test case. You already know it. Okay, whenever you are writing or generating the test cases, you are going to come up with certain statements. Okay, So something like a large positive number, it is going to accept a large positive number instead of writing a specific number. And whenever you are dealing with the arrays, you are just going to tell about the sorted sequence and length. The array length should be greater than 2. Okay, so I'm not going to mention any specific terms over there. Okay, but in terms of the limit, you should be specific. Okay, and the other details which are required for the execution can be omitted. Okay, so whenever you generate the test cases, it is going to create something called a concrete. Concrete means which will have the complete definition. Okay, and executable test cases from test case specification. So one important point that you should remember is from test case specifications, I'm going to generate the test cases. So it's your responsibility to come up with the clear, okay, image or design regarding test case specification. Okay, this is the one example they have taken up. Okay, that is tool chain for test case generation and execution. Okay, there are many test case generation designs. One is combinatorial test case generation. Okay, and we have something called JUnit, which is basically used for test automation. Okay, you can just explore on that. JUnit is there, Selenium is there. Okay, these all things are there for test automation. You can just explore on those things. Okay, and many other tool chains are also possible. Okay, based on the application domain. So as I was already mentioning, scaffolding is one important concept that you have to focus with respect to this unit. Okay, what do you mean by scaffolding? Let me just give you the general idea of this scaffolding. Everybody have seen construction of a new buildings in the city. Okay, and you can observe over here. They have shown you one picture over here. Okay, uh, 1 second. I'll just indicate it. Okay, if you see this diagram, okay, whenever you see the construction of new buildings in the city, they just come up with a temporary structure with the help of which they can proceed with the construction of a building. Okay, they come up with a temporary structure wherein they make use of some wooden rods or wooden things in order to construct a temporary structure, okay, using which they can proceed with the development of a building. Okay, same analogy can be applied in the software development also, software testing also. Scaffolding, basically, I'm going to have a code, I'm going to design a code which is basically meant for supporting development activities, especially for testing purpose. I'm going to design a small piece of a code or let it be a large code which is basically meant for testing the software. That code is not coming under any the real software piece. It is a separate code which is designed by a tester and it is used for supporting the testing activity. That process I called it as scaffolding. And please make sure that whatever code I have designed for testing purpose, it is not a part of a product and it is never been included in the product. It is only meant for testing purpose. Okay, and it is temporary. It is only used for testing. Okay, and basically scaffolding, it includes certain components like test harnesses, drivers, and steps. These are the things that have been included in scaffolding. Okay, scaffolding is nothing but it is basically a code which is being produced to support testing. And it is not at all a part of the product, which is never seen by the end user. It is a temporary code which is being developed for testing purpose. And it will have test harnesses, drivers, and steps. So let us just look at the terms involved in scaffolding. Okay, we have just keep across certain things called test drivers, steps, and harnesses. Let us just define these terms. What is test driver? Okay, test driver, as the name itself indicates, it is at the initial point from where I can run a test. Okay, like your main program. Okay, Test driver is nothing but it's a main program for running a test. Okay, and it provides a control more than real main program. Okay, that is about a test driver. Test driver is nothing but it is a main program for running a test. It is a main program for running a test. Whenever you are going for test automation, it should include something called scaffolding. Scaffolding is a code that is produced for supporting testing activity, and it is temporary. It is never a part of the final product that you are dealing with, and it is never seen by the end user. It is basically made for a tester for testing purpose. Okay, you have something called test driver, which is a main program, and it serves as the initial point for running any testing activity. There are something called test stubs. Okay, it is substitute for functions, methods, or objects. See, in the industry, whenever you write a code, okay, and whenever certain functionalities or the requirements are given to you, you can just, without writing any logic, you can write a blank function and you try to call it from any point wherever it has been required, and that function, whatever you have written without any logic, will serve as a stub. Okay, it is just for testing purpose. Okay, you try to call a particular function by creating a dummy function without having any logic within it, but you try to call it whether a particular function call is made properly or not, and those things we call it as a stub. Okay, and we have something called test harnesses. Okay, these are substitutes for other parts of deployed environment. Like I can go for certain simulation of a hardware whenever some hardware devices are involved along with the software. Okay, in order to test those hardware devices, I have to go for simulation of a software. Okay, those things are represented by test harness. Okay, these three things are very important with respect to scaffolding: test driver, test stubs, and test harness. Okay, they have explained about controllability and observability, how it can be achieved with a test automation. Okay, here we are writing the automated test cases. Okay, but we need to have certain things called interactive input that provides limited control. Okay, and a graphical output that provides limited observability. Okay, how can we improvise this particular design? Okay, if we just look at this particular thing, MVC, everybody knows, model view controller. Model basically deals with the database part wherein you are going to store the data. View basically deals with the graphical user interface. Controller, it is the intermediate between the model and view. Okay, how can I enhance the controllability and observability? By going for test automation. That is being explained in the next slide. Okay, wherein I'm going to have certain APIs, application programming interfaces, and a wrapper. Okay, here this particular part remains the same as in the previous slide. Only they have included something called test driver and log behavior in order to enhance the controllability and observability. Okay, so if I go for automation of the testing phase, okay, it will include programming interfaces, application programming interfaces, and certain wrappers. This is just the example. Okay, you need not worry. Okay, how can I improvise the controllability and observability? Okay, whenever I do the testing and when it is being automated, okay, if I go for the normal way, okay, you have input, you have a graphical user interface, but the control, it will be limited, and the observability, okay, the output observability, it is also going to be a limited one. Okay, if you want to get the clear view or detailed view of the input or output, whenever you have gone for a testing automation, how can I do that? I should be including the test driver and logs also. If something goes wrong, okay, everything will be recorded in the log file. That is what they have included, log behavior over here. Okay, that's about the controllability and observability. Okay, and one important point with respect to scaffolding is about a generic scaffolding and specific scaffolding. Okay, generic as the term itself indicates, okay, we are going to build a driver and a stub for each test case. Okay, and with the help of the driver and stub, okay, you are going to have at least factor out some common code of the driver and test management. So basically what they are telling you is that you are going to have some common code which is meant for testing purpose or test management. You need not write the separate code for testing different functionalities. You are going to have a central common code, okay, which has been included in the form of drivers or stubs. You know already what do you mean by driver and what do you mean by stub. Stub basically substitute for functions methods, and driver it is a main program for testing purpose. So you're going to figure out some common code for a particular driver and stub, and you are going to manage the testing activity. Since I'm maintaining a common code, it is coming under generic scaffolding. Okay, and what about specific scaffolding? It is meant for testing specific functionalities which is being implemented in the software. You are going to have different drivers, different stubs, different harnesses for testing particular functionalities associated with the software. Okay, and that is about specific scaffolding. Okay, generic and specific as the term itself indicates. Okay, generic scaffolding, you are going to have a common code wherein it is being incorporated within driver and stubs and it is used for testing purpose. Whereas for specific scaffolding, you are going to consider a certain functionality associated with the software. You are going to test it for by generating a specific code and it is being incorporated in the driver stubs and harnesses, and you are going to test a particular functionality and you are focusing on a specific functionality of a software. Okay, for that you are going to design a separate driver, a separate stub and separate test harness. Next important concept is about Oracle. Okay, as I've already told you here, the context is different. It is not the database. Many of you, in spite of telling these many times, you will write in the exam as database, which is wrong. Whenever you are studying Oracle in software testing perspective, the context is different. It is not the database, but it is the program which is basically written for observing the behavior of the program which is under study. Okay, so this is about the Oracle. Okay, and today I just want you people to just explore on JUnit and even Selenium. Okay, in the next class I'm going to ask you about JUnit. Okay, so with respect to Oracle, we are going to learn about comparison based Oracle, which is most important concept, okay, which will be appearing in your exam too. Okay, comparison based Oracle is one of the important concepts with respect to Oracle in software testing. See, just observe the diagram over here. If you understand the diagram, you can easily figure out what exactly happening over here. Okay, here it is the first component in the comparison based Oracle wherein I have a test case. You know it. You know it. What do you mean by test case? Test case will have a pair of test input and expected output. You already know it. You need not add this. Okay, please understand and study. First and foremost, the comparison based Oracle will be accepting test case as input. Okay, The next component in comparison based Oracle is test harness. Okay, I have a test harness which is having comparison based Oracle. Okay, and here two important things you have to focus. One is about the activity comparison and the program under test which is being given as input. Okay, and after that the final outcome is whether the test is pass or fail. Okay, so what exactly happening over here in comparison based Oracle? First initial point that you have to consider, that you have to focus, is about program which is under test, on which you have written the test cases for testing purpose. Okay, how do you test a particular software? Okay, a test case will have the input as well as expected output. Okay, and once you execute the program which is under test, okay, you are going to have some output. Okay, that is what I call it as actual output. Okay, whenever you compare actual output with the expected output, if they appears to be same, then you have written your testing is passed, otherwise it is failed. So that's what how I test a particular software. Okay, you are going to run the test cases and you are going to check out the actual output with the expected output. If they appears to be same, then it's well and good, otherwise you have to redefine or refine your code. Okay, that is one thing. Okay, here what is the role of comparison based Oracle? Okay, comparison based Oracle, it is doing the same thing, whatever I have explained you now. It will compare the actual output. Okay, here there is unit component called compare within the comparison based Oracle. Okay, which will compare the expected output which is being defined in the test case along with the actual output of the program. Then, based on the comparison that is being observed, it is going to tell or give the status either pass or fail. It's very easy. It's self-explanatory. Comparison-based Oracle will accept program under test as the input. Okay, and I have something called test case wherein I'm going to fetch out the expected output. And this particular comparison-based Oracle, it is going to compare the expected output and actual output, and it is going to tell me whether the testing is being passed or failed. So that's what it is doing. It is comparing the actual to predicted output and it is reporting whether it is failure or pass. Okay, and this comparison based Oracle, it is fine for generation of small number of handy test cases. Okay, whenever I have handwritten test cases, it's well and good to have comparison based Oracle. After that, I have something called self checking code, which is been acting as an Oracle. Okay, within the program itself. Okay, there is a difference between the previous diagram and the current slide diagram. Okay, I have a test case, I have a test harness also, but instead of having comparison based Oracle, I have something called self checking code, which is being the part of the program which is under test. There is a difference. Okay, don't get confused over here. Okay, within the program only, I'm going to have self checks. Fine. Okay, with the help of self-checks which are being incorporated within the program under test, I am going to check out whether there are faults or not. Okay. Uh, so these self-checks are incorporated within the program that you have written. With the help of these self-checks, I am going to get whether the testing is passed or it is being under fail condition. Okay. And this is basically suitable for large and automatically generated test suite. But one limitation associated with self-checking code is it is just a partial check, not a complete check. Okay, but I can say that with the help of self-checking code, I can just recognize as many as possible failures associated with the software, but not all the faults are being recognized with self-checks. Oracle can also be written as self-checks. That is, within the program only, you are going to include these self-checks and you are going to test your code. These self-checks are only treated as Oracle. Okay. One of the limitation over here is not all the failures are recognized or faults are recognized with the help of self-checks. Only as many as possible, maximum. To certain limit, I can come up with the failures associated with the software. One more important point associated with the Oracle is capture and replay technique. Okay, these three things, what all I have discussed now, these are most important. Please mark. Okay, comparison based Oracle, self checks, and capture and replay. These things are most frequently asked questions and important questions too. Capture and replay, self checks, and comparison based Oracle. Okay, sometimes there is no alternative to human input and observation. Okay, even though we go for automations, we do require human interference. Okay, uh, we can cut at least certain repetition of human interference whenever I'm going for test automation. So how can I achieve it? Okay, I can achieve it by going for a process or the thing called capture and replay. Understand these two terms. If you understand these two terms, you can easily explain this. Okay. What do you mean by capture and what do you mean by replay over here? Okay. You capture a test case manually. Okay. You are going to run manually a test case, but you replay it automatically. Whenever you are running a test case for the certain first time, you are going to write it manually and you are going to run it manually. But once you get the result out of this test case, you are going to replay it automatically. You will automate that particular testing thing. Okay, that is what I call it capture and replay. You are going to capture a manually run test case and replay it automatically means, see, whenever you have certain software which is performing the same functionality as compared to another software. Okay, you have two softwares. I'm just giving you the example over here. Please focus. You have two softwares. Okay, one is being developed earlier and the other one is which is under testing stage. The one which is already being put into the use. Okay, there are certain functionalities which are common in nature for both of these things. Okay, one which is already put into use, it's already been passed the testing thing. Okay, as I'm saying it is already been passed, that means you have written test cases for testing purpose. Okay, you study those test cases manually. Okay, you manually run a particular test case there. Okay, certain test case are to be captured by you understand those, whether I can apply it for this particular software which is under study now, which is under testing phase now. Okay, and once you know the test cases which are required for your software, you just automate those test cases. Whenever you try to re-execute those test cases, that particular process, I call it as a replay. You capture a manually run a test case and you are going to manually, whatever is being run manually, that particular test case, you are going to automate it whenever you are going to re-execute that particular test case. That is what I call it as replay. With respect to capture, you are going to uh, extract a manually run test case. And when you want to execute that manually run test case, you don't go for manually running it. Instead, you automate it. Okay. And this is possible with the help of comparison based test oracle. Okay. That is about capture and replay. Okay. So here, the important things that you have to focus with respect to test execution is about scaffolding. That is a temporary code to support development and testing. And it consists of test drivers, steps, and harnesses, and including the oracles. Okay, and it ranges from handwritten test case drivers to automatically generated test cases for large suits. Okay, and you have something called capture and replay where human interaction is required. You cannot completely avoid the human interaction in testing. Whenever you go for capture over here, capture basically needs human interference. Wherein the tester, he is going to pick out certain test cases which are run manually, and whenever you try to replay it or re-execute those test cases, you are going for automation. These are the things under this particular topic. Any doubts for anybody? Any doubts for anybody over here? Yes? Any doubts are there? You can just put in the chat box because your voice is not audible. There is some problem with my laptop. Any doubts for anybody? You can just put in the chat box. And these things are very important. Please focus. Scaffolding, capture and replay, self-checks, comparison-based, Oracle. Any doubts? Dhanya? Dhanya, any doubts? You can put in the chat box. If there are no doubts also, please let me know about that because your voice is not audible for me. That's why I'll not get to know. Yes, for anybody, any doubts? Joshna? Joshna? Pranav? Pranav, any doubts are there? Pranav? Good. Manoj? Manoj, any doubts? Manjuvani? Manjuvani, any doubts? Prajwal is there? Prajwal? Prajwal? Sharathi? Any doubts with respect to today's discussion? Sharathi? Sharathi, are you there? Yes. So if this is the case, okay, too. As I've already mentioned, tomorrow I have some other work. I have exam actually tomorrow. So tomorrow, 10:30 class will not be there. Software testing class will not be there Saturday, right? Tomorrow. So instead of that, I'll just take compensatory class. I'll just let you know about it, okay, about the timings. Okay, fine. Actually, currently I'm on leave. Actually, maternity leave. I'm on maternity leave right now, but still I'm taking online classes. I'll complete your portion. So this completes your fourth unit. Okay, this completes your fourth unit. In the next class, in the next session, I'll be starting with the last unit, that is testing object oriented software, which is most important. Okay, and questions will appear from each unit. Please remember, everybody knows about new pattern. Okay, from each unit, you are going to have around 4 questions, maximum 6 questions. Okay, suppose I have unit 1. Okay, it has got 2 parts. First part will have 3, second part will have 3. Okay, either you have to write complete first part or complete second part, not one from here, two from here. No. Okay, so it's required for you to study all the units if you want to score good marks. Okay, so in the next session, I'll be beginning with a new unit, that is last unit, testing object oriented software. If any doubts are there, please let me know. Before I conclude the session, I just want to tell you one more thing. In the PEM version, okay, there is some CTA activity. I have around 6 programs which I've already told you. You are supposed to write and submit it in the Google Classroom. Write the solution for those 6 programs and submit in the Google Classroom as early as possible for everybody, because I have to finalize your CTA marks based on the webinars you have attended, because I have the attendance, and you have to write the solution for the programs which are being mentioned in the PEM version of the syllabus. If not there, I have already put in the Google Classroom. You can just visit the Google Classroom. Okay, so let me conclude today's session. Next session, I'll let you know about it, because tomorrow you don't wait for me because I have exam tomorrow. Okay, so next session, whenever I'll be taking, I'll just inform you about the timing. Okay, fine. Thank you, everybody.